Everyone, RemanX here, and I want to talk a little bit about the evolution of ISO and U and why I think they've gone from probably one of the best features in mobile gaming to potentially one of the most catastrophic changes that has ruined the goodwill in Marvel Strike Force. We're going to get into it right away because I want to help you guys understand why I haven't been diligent updating my ISO list and why it's become such a challenge for me to make recommendations. So let's start with some core basics, guys. If you guys don't remember, right around last October, we had the introduction of, 2 Octobers ago, we had the introduction of symbiotes, and it was probably one of the best things because we actually also happened to have the ISO rollout. And the ISO rollout wasn't announced, but it was great because, you know, after the last beta test, we got some of the best minds of MSF together from all alliances. We bridged the gap. It was Panther Hulk, Legion of Cabal, some of Canage and Rondius, and we brought everybody together to kind of come up with the ISOs, do some advanced testing, and after 22 hours a day for the first 2 weeks and thousands of dollars later, we had a pretty good understanding of ISO. And so what was great about it is ISOs were originally going to be like mods with the exception of speed. They were going to be random components that were completely, anywhere from 1 to 100 or maybe 1 to 1,000 bonuses on crit damage, etc. And the community rejected that. And one of the things that will always be a point of goodwill that at the time, Disney, during that rollout, Fox Next to Disney, stopped and said, hey, let's take a look at this and let's do something different. And they built an entirely different game mechanic that allowed this amazing level of theory crafting. By simply changing your ISOs periodically, you were able to get different effects and change the way the interactions happened. If you wanted a character to have more focus to land buffs, it was simple. Skirmisher. If you wanted some extra bonus damage, you had a couple of choices from Raider to Striker. And as the evolution happened, it was doing pretty well. And then ISO Blue happened, and what happened with ISO Blue is, I think they looked back on ISO Green Raw and said, we didn't make a lot of money. But that's part of your $300 million banner year. Because what you did was you built so much goodwill with your audience, with your customers and your consumer base, that we absorbed ISO in a much better way than ever could have been implemented on something that was a mod-based system. So instead of that, it became kind of Gear 2.0. What happened was it became a gateway to getting to higher raids to get better ISO, and it was a little bit jumbled at one point. When you saw the initial rollout for the raids, it eventually became this very, very clear Doom 1, Doom 2 evolution to get there, but the first implementation of that green change with the requirements became, pretty bad. Then the rollout of Blue ISO 2 happened. Blue ISO 2 wasn't bad initially because you were just using a pool of, these hard to acquire at first, but eventually over time we had enough orbs where it was nominal when it was time to switch and possibly theorycraft. Now, the real problem right now is the current gating on Blue ISO 4. Here's the problem. The problem is it's the requirement for a character that's as epic as Apocalypse is likely to be. Now, we know that sometimes, there's a fear with a new current power creep with a character like Zombie Iron Man, which I'm showcasing here, that he might be dead on arrival. I'm not necessarily worried about that. I do have a little bit of faith that they're going to make us want to get this character, which is why I want to dig into Blue ISO 3, 4, and 5 and talk about the difference and why it feels bad. So we're going to start with a major point of note. Major point of note is it reads clunky in Raider. And when I say it reads clunky in Raider, it's a very simple fact that as you're progressing, apply +1 vulnerable does not apply +2 per crit. It is +1 up to 5. So characters that have a multi-stage attack, like Crystal's abilities, or specifically her special, or most recently Red Hulk special, which is why we were kind of leaning towards Raider. We're still on the fence about this. I'll show you that character in a moment. Still only +1, so it kind of read like it was going to be apply +1 as you click the evolution of it, because it wasn't clear that it was only applying that. So players who have put Raider on this character confirmed that it's only applying the +1 up to a stack of +5, which is good. But it allows Skirmisher to be the only source for the +2 to get the effects of the Striker attack. Now, the Striker attack, really quickly, is another set of bonus damage with a drain mechanic. It is exceptional, but Blue ISO 5 is a definite huge increase in bonus damage. So here is the real problem. The real problem is these components here, this tier 2 level 4 and the tier 2 level 5. They are extremely rare right now. And so theory crafting cannot exist if you do not have the ability to easily swap back and forth. So we'll take a character that I've wasted tons of resources on to test. We'll take Morgan Le Fay, for instance. Morgan Le Fay currently is Striker level 4, but she started her evolution on my team as Skirmisher level 4. And it cost me 415,000 of the Blue ISO currency to swap that out. That is potentially months worth of farming and acquisition for most players. The exception was I was in the top Masters bracket at the time and I was earning quite a few, so I said, let me test this for the audience. And that's the problem. This is one of the reasons why I stopped spending. It doesn't feel great when, in order to do testing and feedback, that I have to consistently waste hundreds of dollars in value to change a character only to potentially not have that character be the final answer. Without knowing Apocalypse's kit, any of these recommendations on Blue ISO 4 for the Horseman specifically could be massive amounts of resources wasted. And the only way to recover that is after you built the team and have your Apocalypse, team ready to go. Remember, it's Blue ISO 4 G16 on the Horseman teams and the Strike characters that currently only include Spider Weaver. So my wish list would be that once you unlock Blue ISO 4, it costs you nothing to swap in between. Maybe some Blue ISO, the Blue ISO level 1 ions, fine. I mean, they're a lot more easy to acquire, but another $415 to swap a class makes it feel really, really bad if you're, let's say you're, and content creation doesn't exist in a vacuum. We really talk to each other and we try to figure out what the best options are and really want to make sure you guys aren't being, wasting these hundreds of dollars of resources just guessing what's available. So the only way to do that is to test. But this has come out of my own pocket to a certain degree and my own planning for Apocalypse to try to help you guys along this path. It is why I think ISO lists are probably, going to hurt us if we're not really working together to build something that'll last for the future. And I don't think it's a one size fits all. I mean, the reality of it is Blue ISO 4, not so bad. Here's the big problem though. When you're switching to Blue ISO 4, Blue ISO 5 will be coming down the line as you start beating this tier 3 on the sagas. Now that won't be happening necessarily right away, but in 6 to 7 months when the gateways are finally open and you start bringing teams to G17, you'll probably have a harder time with that decision, knowing that the teams may already be on their way out and they're obsolete. So this thing about ISO, Scopely, was you built in an amazing amount of goodwill by designing a system that not only worked aside red stars and allowed a balancing on the same ways that red stars do. You earned so much goodwill from your consumer base that you had your banner year. That players who were leaving Star Wars Galaxy Heroes and other games that feature mods saw a breath of fresh air in your ISO system. But by doubling down on making them restrictive on adding in another level of subset of gear, you have strangled your own economy to the point where players are not investing in it because they're worried that it'll have no value if they make the wrong decision. And so I plead to you over the development team that you heed our call and at least address this and tell us what are the plans for it. Or if not, at least get his Apocalypse Kit as soon as possible so we can make some recommendations to our audience. Now, this is one of those videos where I think we're gonna just take a quick pause and say there's a lot of testing that needs to be done on these characters, and unfortunately, not knowing the answer in the future of what'll happen, I mean, no matter what we do, we're going to be wasting resources at some point. Still, I'd like to make sure I wasn't one of those people giving you guys the wrong advice because I just wanted to be right. Anyway, guys, love you much. I still do things so you don't have to, and you can see that by my roster, even though I'm currently free to play. I hope you guys are enjoying Marvel Strike Force. More importantly, I'm hoping you guys are being kind to each other in this process that is the change in the system and the frustration that has been this game for the past few months. See you soon.